Renee, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll wait just a couple more minutes.
Robin Hood. Robin Hood.
All right, everyone, good afternoon. We'll go ahead and get started here. Thanks again so much for being here. I'm Robin, the creative strategist for the WCWB, and with me today, our guest is Renee Cohen, and she will be presenting Financial Self-Care and 3 Money Moves for Women. Before we get started, I'm going to do a quick overview of the resources that the WCWB offers, so bear with me if you have heard this before. If you haven't already, please mute yourself for now. If you're having issues with audio, you can always call in, and then if you have questions, you can use your chat function throughout, and at the end, we will have opportunities where you can unmute yourself for some Q&A time. This webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Let's Talk Business library, where you can find other presentations on various topics of interest. So a little bit about the WCWB. We host 2 Let's Talk Business episodes a month. One's on the first Thursday of the month and one on the third Thursday, always from 12 to 1 p.m. And among many of our other amazing resources for entrepreneurs, we offer a business plan writing program called BEST. BEST stands for Business Enterprise Startup Training. And if you're interested or have been thinking about starting your own business, this could be a really great program for you. BEST is an 8-week course, and there's 1 webinar per week, usually on Tuesdays, and you'll receive access to a business plan web application that you'll use to create a comprehensive business plan. By the time you are done after that 8 weeks, you'll have finished a business plan and you'll be ready to seek funding for your new business venture. The WCWB also offers no-cost coaching, and we are scheduling coaching sessions currently on Zoom or over the phone. Eventually, we'll be back in the office, and then we can then schedule coaching sessions in person. Coaching topics can include startup assistance, business plan writing, marketing, and operations. And right now, we currently have 3 coaches who conduct coaching sessions on different areas of business startup. We are located in the Thurston EDC and CB&I in the SPSCC Lacey campus. In the Thurston EDC, we have a number of partner organizations that assist entrepreneurs and business owners at various stages and aspects of business. The SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, provides free business counseling to organizations, and they typically work with organizations that have already started or are in their earlier stages of business development. The Washington Procurement Technical Assistance Center, a mouthful, is PTAC, helps organizations to contract with city, state, and federal governments. So if you think that you have a service or a product that can be sold to the government, PTAC can help you find and pursue contracts. We also offer a SCORE mentorship program. If you're looking for mentorship, this program is a no-cost program provided typically by retired business individuals that are volunteering to assist entrepreneurs and business owners in earlier stages of business development. The WCWB, or the Thurston EDC as a whole, we have our own version of Shark Tank called Think, and it's a group of 40 local investors who are interested in investing in local Washington businesses. So as seen on Shark Tank, you would pitch your idea to investors who in return ask difficult questions. Think is typically looking for businesses who have a high growth potential. And located in the St. Martin's campus, we also have the Lacey Makerspace. We like to call this the Inventors Workshop. You can create prototypes, or if you're just looking to get creative, the Lacey Makerspace has a lot of cool tools. And if you are interested in pursuing more of our services, you can check out our calendar to see upcoming programs on our website. You can email us at info@wcwb.org or give us a call. And I am going to stop sharing my screen and introduce to you our guest, Renee Cohen. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Renee, you should be able to share screen. Do you have that?
I do. And let me know if you see my screen now.
Yes.
Perfect. You put to the slideshow. So you don't see, does everyone then see, you see my screen perfectly?
Yeah, it looks great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Robin. I am so excited to be here with you guys this afternoon to talk about financial self-care and some power money moves for women. It is such an important topic. I know I know we all know that this year has been challenging. It feels like we are playing an endless game of dodgeball with all the curveballs that have been being thrown our way this year. And I think it really highlights more so than any time before as to why we want to, especially as women, we want to make sure that we are thinking about our financial wellness, and that financial wellness is part of our self-care, and certainly understand how this topic can feel so overwhelming, so confusing, and so complex that it makes us just want to run away and avoid it altogether. So my hope today, and what I'm going to talk about today, is to give you guys some nuggets, high-level nuggets, to really break down the areas where I find that women get stuck in their financial life. I know this because obviously I am a woman. I have my own financial journey. It hasn't always been perfect. And so a lot of it, I come at this with the lessons that I have learned in my journey, and in all of the conversations that I've had with women along the way. And for any man that is on here, because I know this is an inclusive group, it's not to single out just women. It is also, there are some nuances when it comes to women that we want to be thinking about. So any man that's on here, it's also to have this awareness, and also to, to help the women in your life have this awareness as well. And as I was telling Robin before before everyone joined, is, this presentation is really to guide the conversation. It is a very expansive topic to do in an hour. So again, I'm going to really hit the highlights. As thoughts and questions come up, we certainly will have time for Q&A at the end, but I always like to try to make this as interactive as possible. So if any thoughts and questions come up, please feel free to put that in the chat box, and we will address it throughout. So who am I? I am an LA-based financial planner, but I work with people all over the country, and I think this is a year that just shows how we can really work virtually and really across state lines. So I've always been a national advisor, really working a lot primarily with women to really demystify this complex topic of money, so women can really grow their money, really have the right mindset. The money mindset is so important. Having a positive mindset and really breaking through any of the limiting beliefs that you're coming to the table with when it comes to your money, so you can grow your net worth and reduce your taxes and really be living a purpose-driven life. So my goals today is to really help you really feel confident in your financial future. It is constantly changing. I know that we're going through it feels like there's so much heavy stuff going on with obviously the virus still, the economy, the politics and the election coming up. So there's a lot of things, and a lot of these things are out of our control. So we really want to make sure that we can focus on the things that we can control, because what this year again has taught us is that, we are going to be thrown curveballs in our life. And so we want to make sure that regardless of whatever these curveballs are, is how do we maintain control where we can control, or where we can maintain that control, so we're not just feeling like we're just completely with the wind. And really being intentional with how you really build your wealth and protect your wealth, which is really important, not only for today, but for your future as well. And I purposely use the word wealth with women. That is really a definition. That is an individual thing. Wealth doesn't mean to be super, super rich. It means, how do you want your money to show up for you? And that's going to mean something different for everyone. I'm just going to move. This is where when it comes to these to virtual events, it's always moving the window so this way I can see it, see the chat box and see the slides. So I think, as I said, it's like your financial health. A lot of times we think so much about our physical health, our mental, which is even super important in these times, is the mental health, the physical, the spiritual health. We don't always think about their financial health as part of this self-care package. And it really is changing the mindset around that. And it's to say all of these phases of our life, they're all integrated into each other. So we can't neglect one versus the other. And that it really, we may have to nurture maybe one a little bit more than another one at certain points in our life, but it really is looking at it holistically and making sure, especially as women, we have longevity. We have to use it as an asset. Generally speaking, we're living a lot longer than men. And so we really have to really arrive to our future self being well positioned. And for what most women, what we need, and what we're really seeking, is just to have that peace of mind, and being able to know that, again, whatever curveball comes our way, whether that is something beyond our control, like a virus, something that's beyond our control, other than being able to go vote, as in an election, whether it's something personally in your life or professionally, is that you're on solid ground. So the things that we're going to cover today is just the financial power of women. I always really like to set the stage with that, and really how financially powerful we are, because I do think that a lot of us, we do have a lot of the limiting beliefs that really hold us back. And so, which is where the financial self-care comes into, and really the top priorities that a lot of women we need to be thinking about, and why those are different nuances for us versus versus men in our lives, and those challenges, and how do we put in place these 3 power moves, and really to simplify what we want to be thinking about, so we can really have that peace of mind and have a strategy in place to have the intentionality around our finances and our financial life, which ultimately is what we want, is to bring ourselves peace of mind for ourselves and for our family. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. And again, this is a lot of information in a short period of time, so I always like to leave people with additional resources and an opportunity to ask me individual questions. So these are things we may have heard, or maybe it's new for you, which is women control 51% of the personal wealth in our country. I don't know if, when I do pose that, and I tell women that I think subconsciously we know it if we haven't heard it before, because if you look at your own households, regardless of whether you're in a partnership or you are running your own household, is most women, we know what's going on in our households on a month-to-month basis. We may not have complete clarity and to know exactly where every dollar is going, but we're usually the ones that are running the household and have the central point as to where money is going and where we're spending those dollars. And I'm seeing this more and more. The longer that I am in this, and I've been doing this now for almost 8 years, is that I'm seeing more and more that women are the primary breadwinners in their family. Now, the interesting thing will be, how this year really impacts us, because as women, we're seeing at a very alarming rates how women are taking themselves out of the workforce in whatever capacity, whether you're in a corporate setting or in an entrepreneurial setting, is really taking ourselves out of the workforce in some capacity to really address the family needs and the personal needs because of what's going on with the virus. But I'm seeing that more and more women are at equal or really the breadwinners in their family. And so those are the decision-making factors when it comes to their households and what that means for them and their family. So the priorities for women, and as I talk with women and really ask what's most important, and it really fundamentally, again, this is all generally speaking, but fundamentally, the 4 main things that are most important to women is spending time with family. So we have that peace of mind that our money is working, because we want to spend time with our family, watching our kids grow up and not taking not letting time pass us by in that capacity, and being a good parent, being present and having that balanced life. So it really is, and this isn't obviously a topic around work-life balance in any capacity, and I would not be the expert in that sort of way, but it is really about finding what is that balanced life for you. And that's what's so important for women, which is where the money part comes into it, is that because when you have the confidence and clarity in your financial life, you have that peace of mind to have that balance in your life. So that's where I find that really being financially prepared is not that it's not a priority, it's just that it is the byproduct. It's the driving force to have the byproduct, I should say, of having that family time and having that balanced life. But some of the challenges that women face more so than men is that we are living longer. So we do have to factor into longevity into our plans, because a lot of times we're just thinking about just what our present moment looks like, and looking at what is the next few months, what is the next year, maybe what's the next few years look like. And at some point, yeah, I know theoretically I'm going to retire, but we're not really thinking about what does that true future hold. And the fact that our distribution years, which is the years that we're going to be living off of the dollars that we have saved during our working years, can equal our working years. We can be living for 35 to 40 years. So we have to be planning for that. We also want to raise our children or take care of a loved one. I mean, I think that's what really has been highlighted again this year, is that, if a family member becomes ill, or we need to take a step back in some capacity to take care of our family members. Those are the challenges that we face if we're taking ourselves out of the workforce or decreasing our salary, whether that is in a corporate setting by the hours that you're working, or as a business owner, if you're not working as much as you are, as having that flexibility in the business. And we typically earn less than men. So even though we may be the breadwinners in some of our households, we still are earning less than men. And this certainly, I could go on many, many tangents around, trying to close the wage gap. But we do have to, we have to be cognizant of the fact that we are earning less than men. And women, because we're living longer than men, we are usually, we most likely are inheriting money multiple times in our life. So there are times not only are we earning dollars, how we're earning that by the way that we work, but also the fact that we're inheriting, there's different points in our life that we're also inheriting dollars. So it becomes even more and more important to make sure that we're doing smart things with our money, because we're probably inheriting money from family in some capacity, and we're probably inheriting money from spouses. So just from a chat perspective, and this is just for me to really also to give some scheduled pauses and to hear from you guys, as long as you guys feel comfortable, is to what are some of the concerns, financial concerns that you have. Would love to hear it, just so as you guys are, putting that in the chat box, things that are top of mind for you. I will be able to look at that and make sure that I'm addressing those things as we're continuing to progress the conversation. So if you want to just drop that in the chat box, let me know. I would love to hear what are some of those things that do concern you the most. So some of the mistakes that I see women make, and I always like just to kind of frame this in a way of, here's your self-care, financial self-care checkpoints. And these are the things holistically to be thinking about when you're thinking about your the self-care around your finances, and the mistakes that women make when they're not taking care of the financial side of their life. One is being intentional with cash flow. It does not mean that you have to know where every single dollar is going. It really means to categorize, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but to be intentional with cash flow. It is not worth, it's going to cause more stress in your life by putting your head in the sand. And so we want to categorize our monthly cash flow into different categories, which is living expenses, discretionary expenses, and savings. We want to be thinking about retirement and financial independence now. It is something that we inherently know. We've heard it. We probably have heard it for years, and we've known it. But the earlier you start, no matter how much that is, I think one of the limiting beliefs that I hear a lot, and it's certainly something that I had earlier on in my life, was that if I'm not making enough, or if I'm not paying myself enough, if you're a business owner, then I can't save. I have to be able to pay my bills. The earlier you start, it has opportunity to compound and grow. And it really is knowing your worth. So whether that is, again, in the corporate setting, is to really do the research as to what are you making? What are your peers in the industry? Are you up to par with your peers in the industry? Having those kind of conversations with your peers at your company. If you are, and I know that sounds sometimes shocking, and you're like, I can't ask someone what they make, but the people that you're close to in your company or in your job, especially as other women, I think it's really important for us to kind of build that group, that advisory group, and just say, listen, you don't need to know all of the details, but in order to empower each other, I see that we are both directors or whatever level you are, is just, can I ask you what your salary is? And I think that's really the way to break the taboo subject. We start to know our worth. Are we getting the worth that our value? And if you're a business owner, is also to be pricing yourself and your packages, or if you're in a service provider, entrepreneur or business, or if you're in a e-commerce type, is pricing your products in the right way, so you're not underscoring or undervaluing what you bring to the table and to your clients. Protecting yourself and your family is always going to be the most important piece, and always the most overlooked piece. So we'll take a little bit of a deeper dive into that. And overcoming the limiting beliefs. Mindset is always the first part of any sort of change we need to make in our life. That is really recognizing we all have limiting beliefs, because we all have different experiences, different upbringings, different relationships with money that we're bringing to the table. And so it really is recognizing what are some of those limiting beliefs that hold you back, because awareness creates growth. So some of the limiting beliefs that I hear a lot, and it's certainly things that I felt in my life, which was, I'm not making enough money, so I can't save. It is, well, at some point in my life, I'll have another income coming into the house. So I don't really, maybe I can save a little bit, but I don't need to save a whole lot. One is, I think I'm behind. My friends have this all, they know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And I think I'm going to look stupid. So I'm afraid to ask. And I'm afraid to ask a professional for some help, because then I'm going to have this money shame that I'm not far along, or that I am such a hot mess. I may have credit card debt, or I may not be able, you know, I may have this debt, or I don't want them to know how much I'm spending here. And so it becomes this money shame, or this shame game, which only holds you back. The other limiting belief that I hear a lot is especially from women, which is so not true, because we're usually running our households and in some capacity running a budget for our families and for ourselves, which is, I don't like numbers and I'm not good at math. You don't need to be successful in your financial life. You don't have to be a mathematician. You don't have to calculate, different codes and different formulas to be intentional. Those are all beliefs that we need to throw out the window. And talking to a financial professional, if there's anything in your life, is really being able to talk to someone who is an expert in this, being able to navigate through not only cutting through the clutter of all the information that's out there, because it is so hard. We're living every day. It just feels like we're drinking from a fire hose of information. So how is it really possible to cut through all the clutter in the way, in the context that it fits me, not just everyone else? But then also thinking about our own perspective. We all see things, our lives, through our own lens of experience. So anytime that we're partnering with an expert in our life in any capacity, whether that is, financially, whether that's spiritually, whether that is physically, or anything else, it is to help provide a perspective that we can't see for ourselves in this moment. The monthly cash flow, so I always like to go through this. So to be intentional with your dollars does not mean that you have to know where every single dollar is going. It's really to categorize your monthly cash flow. It's meant to give you the awareness and saying that I know what's coming in the door, even if it's variable. So it's to let go of that belief, well, I'm in a variable income, I'm a business owner, so one month it's this, the other month it could be that. So I can't tell you what my expenses are. That's not an excuse either. As much as that's painful to hear me say that, we all, regardless of whether you have a fixed income or a variable income, it is to know what your living expenses are. So those are the things where I always say, shit hits the fan, you still have to pay. Your housing costs, mortgage, your rent, home maintenance, taxes, all those things to put a roof over your head, you still have to pay for. And yes, in this moment of COVID, we may have some leeway because of the situation that we're in, but those are things that we still have to pay for. Transportation, right? So if you're living in a city like Los Angeles, where even though I have not been using my car a whole lot, thankfully, but the costs around car, transportation, the food, anything that you have to, no matter what happens in life, granted, yes, I know the situation that we're living in, again, we may have some leeway, but shit hits the fan, we still have to pay for it. Those are your essential expenses. Your discretionary expenses are the things that I like to just say, this is the fun bucket money. So that's the eating out, knowing that we can't eat out the way that we used to. But I know I'm Postmating a lot, and at least trying to help support some local businesses, mainly because I'm so tired of cooking. I don't want to see another dish again. But, it is the discretionary spending, the eating out, the activities, and going to the gym back when we were able to go to the gym, but now swapping that out for the virtual workouts and maybe helping the kids' activities, right? And keeping them occupied. All these things that maybe are variable in our monthly budget, we want to categorize that as discretionary. And then we want to carve out time for, or money for savings. The biggest question I get is, well, what are the percentages and how much should I save on a month-to-month basis, or how much should go towards it, towards each category? Generally speaking, 50 to 60% is your fixed expenses, and then splitting the difference. So whether that's 40 to 30, or 40 to 35%, splitting the difference between saving and spending. We all need spending in our life. You cannot have a budget that is just your fixed expenses and saving. That's like going on a diet and only eating kale every single day for every meal. At some point, you're going to binge. I would binge by dinner. So you can't have, if you find yourself overspending on your fixed expenses, it means you're living out of your means, because you're not having any time for fun. Therefore, you're telling yourself the narrative that I can't save. If you do find yourself, you always want to you want to aim to be cash flow positive. And when you are, it doesn't mean that just because you can't save 15 to 20% of your income that you don't need to save. So again, that's another narrative that I hear a lot of women tell themselves. Well, I can't do that, therefore I'll do nothing. 1% is better than 0. 2% is better than 1%. And so it really is to really push yourself to make sure that you're saving in some capacity, and not allowing that narrative of, one, not knowing where your money is going each month, not categorizing it, or not feeling like you can save. But again, making sure that you're carving out time or money to be able to spend intentionally. So if you don't mind dropping in the chat box, what are some things, what are some self-care practices that you are currently doing? And some self-care practices that maybe we just talked about that was like, oh, it sounds like a good idea, and something that you want to incorporate. So I'm going to just take a quick, this is where I always get awkward, is to look at the chat box, but I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to pause right here just to see. I'm going to go back to the cash flow sheet, and my email's at the end as well. So that cash flow sheet is something that I use for personal and for business, because maybe not every line item is going to be exactly the same, but it is a really good interactive worksheet where you can make real-time changes for both, whether it's business or whether it's personal. There's a lot of overlapping. And we'll talk about the concerns around surprises and, unexpected expenses that kind of pop up, whether that's monthly or just unexpectedly. And we're living in a time where we've seen that having that emergency fund is really important. So some of the 3 power moves, I always like to categorize this into 3 moves. And then within each of these moves are different strategies. One is fundamentally, if you think about your financial life as a home, you always want to have a solid foundation. And that solid foundation in your financial life is to make sure that you are protecting any sort of risk that you're unwilling to participate in. If you couldn't work for a long period of time, if God forbid there was a premature death in your family, you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself, that your house is not falling down. And it is an uncomfortable conversation to have, and these things to be thinking about, because it isn't necessarily always pleasant, but it's necessary. If you're going to be the CEO of your life, and to have intentionality and to have awareness to make sure that not only are you, but your family and your future family is set up and secure and has that peace of mind, you have to, as a CEO, be thinking about not just the offensive side of your life, but also the defensive side. being able to save and invest for your goals. So we'll talk about growing your wealth and growing money, no matter how much where you're at today, whatever your income is, or how many investable assets you have, and preserving what you're working so hard for. Because that's really what generational wealth is being able to pass on. It doesn't mean that you have to, again, be like a Warren Buffett and be passing on billions and billions of dollars, but it is being able to preserve what you're working so hard for, and to preserve that legacy, that what's meaningful for you. So some of the key things when it comes to protecting yourself, and the biggest mistake that I see a lot of people making, is not protecting themselves against the 3 threats that really can devastate them financially. One is protecting your income. It sounds as simple. It sounds pretty simple. It just is. We do not think about our income the way that we think about our material assets. And what I mean by that is, most people, when I ask them what is their greatest asset, they will say their home if they own a home. Or they will mention something else that has a material value that is high to them. Your greatest asset is you being able to work and generate an income for yourself. So wherever you are today, however old you are today, multiply all of the years that you can potentially work and earn an income and to grow money. That's your greatest asset. And without knowing all the details and where everyone is and how old everyone is on here, I can promise you it's a multi-million-dollar asset. So by you not protecting your income in some capacity is going to buy a multi-million-dollar home, wherever you live, and not buying homeowners insurance. I don't think anyone on here would do that. So it's really changing the mindset of you are your greatest asset, and protecting your income from any sort of long-term injury or illness. And I will frame that. I've had multiple examples with clients of just unexpected accidents that have happened. Some of them were freak accident, and some of them were maybe not, was more of an illness with cancer. But I can also use it in today's time. And I had a client that was, that did get COVID and is unable to work. So we don't know how long, because he is recovering from it, but he is not recovering from it as, it wasn't a quick bounce back for him. So he's still out of work. So those are things that you want to make sure that you know what you have. And if you're working in a corporate setting, what are your benefits through work? And what is the gap? And if there is a gap, how do you cover and supplement that gap? The second one is a premature death, whether that's yourself or whether that's a spouse or a partner that you are financially relying on. You want to make sure, especially for any parent that's on here, it is the cost of being a parent to make sure that your children's future is protected. It is what life insurance is the protection against a GoFundMe account. And we all, I'm sure, can have examples of situations that we have seen, whether personally or friends of a friend, where you're like, that really sucks. And that person is not financially prepared, and they have a GoFundMe account. And that's really what we want to make sure that, again, especially as a parent, or if you want children in the future, is to make sure that you're protecting your insurability. And as women, it's the long-term care. At some point in our lives, we're going to need some sort of care. And especially if we're living longer, those are the 3 things that we need to, at different phases of our life, we need to be thinking about. I would also add here, because of the time that we're living in, I think it highlights the fact that we need to have an emergency fund of cash. And I'll talk about in a second of how to categorize where to put money. Doesn't mean that we want to be the hoarders and put all of our money under the mattress for the rest of our lives, because that's not going to do anything for you other than being really uncomfortable to sleep on. We need to make sure that we do have enough liquidity and access that if we were to lose a job, we get furloughed, something unexpected like what this year has brought, is that we're financially prepared for it. So I kind of talked about this, with the disability insurance, what's called long-term disability insurance. And it is really the biggest gap that fundamentally, I see every single person have, is if we're working in the corporate setting, we have this safe, we think that we have this false sense of security that our companies are taking care of us and I get this benefit through work. Well, group insurance, whether it's disability insurance or life insurance, is never meant to take care of the employee. It is meant for the employer to raise their hand and say, we offer this. It is not meant to really fully cover your needs. And because the company is paying the premiums, it is a taxable benefit to you. So what you think you actually get, it is actually taxable. So for most companies, they're offering 60% of someone's gross salary, which means that they're only protecting 40%. So most people are walking around with a gap. And if you can live off of 40% of your income for then maybe you don't have a problem. But most people are unable to not only continue to pay their bills, to probably pay additional bills because there's some sort of medical reason why they're not working. And then two is continuing to save in some capacity so they're not completely derailing their future. So the group insurance, whether that's disability insurance or certainly life insurance, does not fully cover. On a high level, there's two different, it's the number one question I get when it comes to insurances there's different types of life insurance. There's term insurance, and then there's what's called whole life permanent cash value insurance. The difference between the two is like renting an apartment versus owning a home. It really depends on your personal situation and your circumstances as to which one is better for you. Maybe it's a combination, but if you think about life insurance, it's an intangible thing versus real estate. Real estate is something that we can touch, we can feel, we can live in. It acts the same way. It's just that one's an intangible asset, one's an intangible asset. They both, what real estate fundamentally does for you is that it provides a roof over your head, whether you are renting it or whether you're owning it. There's different benefits that come along with that. Life insurance is the same thing. You can rent the death benefit, the peace of mind, the coverage, the protection for your family, or you can own it. And when you're owning it, just like in real estate, you're building equity over time. You're using the life insurance as an asset. So that's what cash value insurance is. And again, insurance is first and foremost to make sure you have the coverage that you need for your personal situation. And then it's to decide, okay, what type of insurance may make sense for me? There's no right or wrong answer. It's just to make sure that you're thinking through the different types of insurance and what fundamentally covers you. So I'm going to pause right there before we get into maybe more of the sexier part of the conversation as we're kind of rounding out the hour. Any thoughts and questions, please put that in the chat box, and I'm timing myself. So for another like 5 to 6 minutes, and we'll go through these strategies and then open it up for questions. This is the number one question I get, is where to put money. And so when you are in the accumulation phase, again, regardless of where you are as a business owner, where you are as an employee, it is really important to categorize your savings into different buckets. And to really simplify that, and I think it's where most people get confused, is like, well, I'm living life today, and then there's this thing called retirement. And retirement is many, many years apart, and there's a lot of life to be had in between these two goalposts. So where the hell am I supposed to put money in between? Like, it's maybe like, yeah, I theoretically, I understand I need to save for this period of time, but how the hell do I also, there's so many things in between that I want to accomplish and I want to save for, and things come up, and a new roof and all those things, kids activities. So where am I supposed to put money? To categorize it, short term. And so that's where it's also important to have some clarity as best as you can around your goals, right? It doesn't mean, because life evolves, life changes. So you have to be able to adapt and to evolve and say, okay, like maybe when I'm writing out my life script, I want to buy a home in 3 years, or I want to have a family in 4 years. Like sometimes life may not be exactly how we write it out, but we do want to have clarity and intentionality with our goals. This way we can then have the intentionality and clarity as to where do we want to save, how can we save, where do we save our money, and what strategies make the most sense. So if something is a short-term goal, which is 0 to 3 years, especially with the year that we're living in right now, is to put that in cash, is to address your emergency fund, which is somewhere between 3 to 6 months. Ideally these days, I'm really thinking about 6 to 8. I'm telling people to have 6 to 8 months, because we've seen so many jobs have been lost and businesses have been impacted. Midterm, I categorize. So if you think about between these two goalposts, here's your short term, and then you push it out a little bit longer, is your midterm. And that's where investment accounts is important, is because it gives you better opportunity for growth by putting it into the market, even though that market sounds scary, but to be allocated, to be invested appropriately for the time range of 4 to 8 years. Because if you kept it in cash for the 4 to 8 year range, you're going to lose its value to inflation. And then you want to think about the 8+ years. So again, in between these goalposts would be the life that's happening between, the midpoint to quote unquote retirement, is all of these years is where you want to save money into a different investment account where it's invested differently than your midterm account, because the time horizons are different. You can take a lot more risk in your longer term than you can in your midterm. And the longer term, if you're looking at life insurance as owning the life insurance and looking at that as, hey, that makes sense to build this as an asset, then that's where life insurance also fits into it. Real estate and life insurance fits into the longer term. Because what you can do with real estate and what you can do with life insurance is you're building those assets, you're using those vehicles to build an asset that you can use dollars prior to retirement. So the retirement goal, that last goal post, is your traditional vehicles, your 401ks, your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, things that the IRS has their rules and regulations around, where they tell you how much you can put into on a year-to-year basis. They tell you when you can touch it, right? You can't touch those accounts until you're 59 and a half without having to pay penalties and potentially taxes. So that's where I categorize all of those vehicles as your retirement vehicles. And your long-term, your long-term accounts can also dovetail into retirement, but these accounts, these vehicles are accessible to you prior to retirement. So we can probably spend like hours on talking about investments. So this is not meant to be the deeper dive into investments, but some of the things, especially right now with what's going on with the election and the virus, it's obviously we've seen the up and down roller coaster ride of the market. But when you are allocated appropriately and you are thinking about your goals and having money in the right places for short term, midterm, and long term, then you can stay the course. I see too many people reacting on a day-to-day basis to what's going on in the market and completely uprooting their plan and discounting their future and not staying the course. If something is short term, then you may want to make some changes. But if something is a retirement or long term, stay the course. Don't worry about what's happening on October 15th of 2020. I promise you, in 3, 4, 5 years from now, you're not even going to be thinking about it. You're going to benefit from staying in the market. Wealth to preserve the wealth, right? And really is generational planning is what's really important as well, is to have the right estate plan in place. Your wills, your trust, what's relative to your personal situation, especially as a parent. You have to have wills, you have to have guardianship, making sure that all these things are tied together with your life insurance, your disability insurance. All of those things protect not only you, but your family. And as life changes, whether you're getting married, whether it's a divorce, having a child, is to make sure your beneficiaries are updated accordingly. Having a plan is really important. This year has shown us to have the clarity, to have the confidence, and to have a plan in place. My clients that I work with, of course, I'm living in this real time with everyone. So it's not like I don't have the emotional reaction to what's going on, but I do know that having a plan in place allows the ability to be able to adapt to whatever curveball that happens, and not to be taken and not to be out of control or allowing someone else's feeling or something that we cannot that we can only be reactive to than being proactive. And that's what a plan is. And understanding that a financial plan is not a one-time fits all thing. It's an ongoing thing. Life changes, life evolves. So it's not meant to put a plan and then put it on the shelf. It's not like filing your taxes once a year. It's something that you're eating, breathing, sleeping on a regular basis. And financial coaching is the best self-investment that you can give yourself, is to make sure that you have that calming voice, to have someone, an expert, to be giving you that perspective that otherwise you may not have for yourself, to be able to get organized, to spot the gaps, to give you that foresight and analyze how you can grow, and to really give you the accountability. Because I know that the accountability in my life is what really is where I make strides and grow. And I see that with my clients, where I'm able to give them the accountability and to hold them to it. Otherwise, we don't do things in our life. It sounds really great, and then we don't really follow through the implementation when we don't have that accountability. So in the last few minutes, as I open it up for questions, if you want to just jot this down for yourself, not necessarily in the chat, but learn the 3 things that you learned today, and maybe some of the money moves that you're going to make after this would be just to kind of give yourself that intention, set that intention for yourself. You can follow me. This is my Instagram. It's my personal. I kind of mix in personal and financial tips and things like that on my Instagram. I always believe that, awareness creates growth. I know I threw a lot of information at you. Every single person has a different scenario, has a different place in their journey. I'm offering every single person on here a free 30-minute money clarity call where we can hop on a call, answer your personal questions, provide some tips and strategies, and give you that clarity with no obligations. It's just a free 30-minute call, and that's my gift to you guys. And you can, find me on social media, my LinkedIn. And and I can also, I'm building a community right now. So if you want to join my community, you can DM me on my Instagram. I have a lot of additional free resources. So all of this is to really to motivate you to continue to have the conversation. I'm happy to do that with you, and I will open that up to questions. I'm going to leave that here and maybe answer some questions. Whoops.
Thank you, Renee.
For sure. Do we have time just to kind of scroll through the chat box?
Yeah, absolutely. Karen said that she plans on revisiting the cash flow with her husband, writing out financial goals, and automating savings.
It's awesome, Karen.
And I don't know if you were able to address the question above. Sandra says, she's 69. Where is the best place for me to put my money at this age?
Typically, I mean, it really is, again, kind of where you're at, but it typically is going to be either, you know, for your cash, if you're living, if you're in your retirement life and not earning any income at all, or if you're consulting or anything, then making sure that you have, you know, liquidity and cash in a high yield savings account. And then still doesn't mean just because you're 69 doesn't mean that you still don't need money to grow for you. You want those dollars to be maybe invested a lot more conservatively than maybe if you had a longer time horizon. So just, I think sometimes people think the market is this really scary thing. It doesn't have to be scary. It's really about the asset allocation and how you are invested. And certainly, you know, depending on what your real estate, you know, whether if you own real estate, then, you know, you can always look at options to, you know, within the real estate. But typically, you know, at this juncture, it's usually high yield savings or some sort of investment, you know, conservative investment account. And if you're looking for some guaranteed income streams outside of what you may be getting from Social Security, that's where annuities can make sense.
Great. And then Brittany asks, what were the 4 top priorities for women?
Oh, great question. So the top priority, I'm just going to scroll all the way back to that just so. Which is really spending time with your family. I think fundamentally it is, you know, it goes hand in hand, spending time with your family. If you're a parent, you know, being a good parent, and really having a balanced life. I think regardless of where you are in your personal journey, really, you know, I know it's a trendy topic, and I know it's something that I don't know if any of us have really completely cracked the code of living that balanced life. And that really is the priority for women. But money is just a tool that provides us the options and flexibility to live the life that we want. So I think when we, from a mindset perspective, don't give money the power of it controlling us and looking at it as making sure that our money's working for us, it fuels us being able to have whatever type of balanced life that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you so much. Is there any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself at this time as well, or continue to put them in the chat. We have a minute left.
And I will just drop in my, I'm going to just drop in my Instagram.
Great. And then I know at the beginning, someone was wondering if they could have a copy of the slides.
I can't provide a copy of the slides for compliance reasons, but I can certainly, if you want to, and I'm putting my Instagram, I know it is because I will answer anything. I think I can also drop my email in here. If you email me, I will send you whatever resource I have for that particular thing, but I can't send my full document just for compliance reasons.
Makes sense. All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Sandra. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Okay. I have a question. Could you put up the last screen that you had contact connection for your community?
Yes, for sure. I have a link up there as well. So I'm building this community. Sorry that I'm just like scrolling right through. If you know, yeah. So if you, I don't know if you can click on here. I can maybe, usually when I'm sending this out here. Let me
have Instagram. Do you have an email that I could connect you to?
Yes, I just put that in the chat box. I'm also going to put this, and I will put my email as well again. So all those things are ways, and Robin, I don't know if you, as a follow-up, if you, you know, I'm more than happy, you know, to, you know, provide these links as well. So that link up there is just to my community. I will get the email and I will reach out, you know, anything that you need. If you want to join my community, which is the link that we see up here. if you want to DM me on Instagram, email me. My point is that I will answer it all and answer any sort of questions that you may have, individual questions, or provide the resources that I kind of went through on here that you would find useful.
What does DME stand for?
The DME, oh, the NM?
A DM, direct message.
Oh,
Oh,
direct.
direct message. Oh, yeah. Wait, did I put that up there? Did I say, I just said it and I didn't, okay, yeah. I was like, DM me. Sorry.
It's like part of our language.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Renee, so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. And if we don't have any other questions, we'll wrap up and bid goodbye.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, you too. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.